Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. I'm so excited to be here because I had a small vacation and I'm so happy that I had a time for relaxation. Now I'm here and I decided to make a video about worst and the best books of 2024. So actually I wanted to make some statistic about this year, and I'm sure that this year was really cool for me, and especially I found interesting books, interesting authors, interesting series which I wanted to continue in 2024. And in a total way, I read 119 books during the year, and I was really excited to know about this number because actually I didn't count this one. And before making the video, I understood that I had a big amount of really cool books which I read in this year. And also, I made some statistic about the genres which I actually read. So I want to tell you that the most interesting was genre for me is the detective and thrillers, and I think it's not a surprising thing for me. And if you are watching my channel, you know about this one, that I'm a fan of this genre. I read 52 books in these genres. The next one I read fantasy and sci-fi, and I read fantasy 27 books, and it's really cool, but sci-fi was only 3, and for me it's unusual because actually I love sci-fi, and for me it was really strange to see that only 3 books I read in this genre. The next one, classical books, I read 12, and it's really cool because I continue my experiment of reading more classical books for understanding more modern literature, because a lot of the time modern authors, they like to make some cameo of some things from the classical books. And I actually read only one book in genre true crime, and for me it was something interesting. It was the experiment of 2024, and actually I want to say that I like this genre and I will continue to be in it in 2024. I hope it would be like this one. And the modern literature, I read 24 books, and 24 books was really interesting, was really cool, and actually I'm really happy that I had a lot of interesting books in different genres, not just in one. So what I want to tell you, I actually don't like to say about bad books, worst books, about the books which I hated or something like that, but in this video I just give you some books which I actually didn't like for my some reasons, or books which I actually don't remember. You know, in this year something strange happened and I actually don't remember 3 books, and I want to tell you about them. So let's start with the worst books of the year, and I have not a lot of them. In detective and thriller, I also found the worst book. It was Lucy Foley and the Hunting Party. I read the story in last January, and for me it was something interesting because it was my meeting with the author. But after this book, I decided to just stop in 2024's meeting with this author, I mean the continuation about this one, because I understood that it's not my author. I didn't like twist, I didn't like the story. Actually, for me, the Hunting Party was really simple and I could understand what's going on there, what's happened, and actually the main twist when we know that something happened, but the answering we have at the end was very interesting, but it was so predictable for me. So the next worst book was Rebecca Kwang and the Babel. I actually love the fantasy world. I actually love the fantasy magical power which the characters had, and actually I love the atmosphere of Oxford, the time, and the all things which can happen there with the main characters. But I didn't like actually the moment where the author just shouting me through the book about the bad things, about the bad living of the people, that the English people were bad. I think if you read the story you can understand what I mean. Also in the bad books I have Rachel Kane and Stillhouse Lake. I actually want to say that this story wasn't bad, the characters weren't bad, and all the atmosphere was really interesting and cool. The beginning was awesome about the understanding what's going on there, why main character she's in a nervous moment, why she's just running away with the kids. But for me this story was too slowly, it was too much for me, and in most moments I just yelling, I just started to think about what I'm reading, for what I'm reading, because for me more interesting detective and thrillers when you have a dynamic process which connect with the characters. But most of the time in this book our main character just have thoughts about surviving, thoughts about the past, thoughts about the fans of her husband, and so on. And for me, it wasn't so actually interesting. Also, the worst book of the year was Ragnar Jonasson and Blackout. It's a small story about also the thrilling moments, about the murder, about interesting location, but it was too simple, it was too slowly, it was too hard for understanding what the author wanna say. And actually, I love detective when people can understand that it's not just detective or thriller. You have also interesting themes for thinking. But this author decided to make a lot of themes for a small pages. And for me, it was unpredictable, and I actually don't like when authors try to say you a lot, just giving you information about something, and then you just need to do like you want with this information. So actually, I don't know to explain why I don't like the story. For me, it was really boring, and the finishing twist was too easy for me, and it was so predictable. So I decided that not, I probably don't want to read other books of this author, because I know that there are a lot of them, and this story which I read, Blackout, was one of the part of this series. The next one, I want to tell you about 3 books which I actually don't remember. I don't remember what's happened there, I don't remember what's going on there, what was the characters. I just remember my feelings, that I actually was not in a good mood for during the reading these stories. I actually didn't like them, I didn't like what's happened there, and I put them all 3 stars from 5, and I think that it's okay. This book is okay, you can read this one, but actually when I start to think about them, I don't remember anything. So the first story which I want to tell you, it's Look Closer, David Ellis. I know that it's a very popular book, a lot of people love it, a lot of twists, a lot of moments, a lot of other past secrets we can have in the story, but actually for me it was too much. You like running through the pages for understanding what's going on, and the author just giving you twist, and it was too much. I think that I don't remember the story because I tired from it. I am really tired, and I actually waited when it would be ending line for understanding what's going on actually, but it also was predictable for me. So I don't know what to do with other books of David Ellis, because I know that he has a lot of them. The next one, Debbie Harvey, Not One of Us. Interesting idea about the main character, main girl. She has the ability to see everything in the colors. It was interesting idea for a thriller, but actually it just paid attention to the reader in some moments where it was really cool for the story. I mean, in the moment when the author decided not to think deeply about some thriller moments, about how the police could be, how the other people could solve some problems, and it was really comfortable for the author just put these superpowers, this ability for the making something wonderful with the story. So actually I don't like it, and I don't remember actually what was the problem in this story. I just remember about the girl and her ability. And the last book, which I don't remember, it's Craig Donnell, The Things You Find in the Rock Pools. I remember just beginning, because beginning was unusual. It was words from the side of the boy, and he was looking at the window, and he can see the ocean near with the house, and it was really cool. It was very wonderful description, cool atmosphere, cool moments, and our main character, the boy, he just describing everything he can see, and in one moment he just sees that something on the beach lying, and that it's a dead body, and he just started to discuss about this one more deeply, and it was really interesting. And that's it. I don't remember other things. I don't remember the problem. The problem, if I remember, it was happened with the past killing of the girl, something like that. And that's it. I don't remember the story. Actually, I every year I read a lot of books, and I actually most of the time remember all of them. Remember the problem, remember the crime, remember the salvation, remember the things which I really appreciate in stories, and which give me the chance to read next books of the authors. But in these three books I don't know what's happened, and it was the first time when I actually don't remember three books. It's just wow. So the next one, let's talk about good books. Good books, it's not the best books of the year, but they were really cool, interesting, involving, well paced, and I ate up them so fastly. So it was really interesting to be with these books, and it wasn't a wasting time. It was really wonderful to be with the characters. Most of the time characters were really interesting, and you really wanted to be near with the characters till the finishing line for understanding what's going on and how they will feel in the end. So these books are really cool, and I wanted to recommend them all if you haven't read in 2024, so just pay your attention. The first one is Emily Henry and Funny Story. It was my meeting with Emily Henry, really. I know that this is so wonderful author, a lot of fans around the world, a lot of books, a lot of great characters, a lot of great stories. But actually I was afraid of all of these things, and in 2024 I decided to read one of his story. It was the new book of 2024's Funny Story, and I decided to start with this one for understanding my opinion about the story. I want to tell that I was in love with everything that happened, also the characters, their communication, their friendly moments, the moments when they spent together, and I really love that it wasn't so a deeply romantical story, which actually I don't like because I'm not a romantic story reader. The next story, it was my wow thing of 2024 because I actually didn't expect anything from the story. I just took it because I know that it was connecting with the clowns, and I really love thrillers which connect with the clowns theme. So it's Hold My Hand, MG Ford, and it was this series, and this is first story from the series. I was really enjoying, I was really involved in the story, I was really fanatically reading the story till the end, because for me it was really interesting how it connect with the past, because I like thrillers and detectives which connect with the past line, and we in reality have some elements which can help you to solve the crime in the past, some details, some moments, some secrets. And it was really interesting to understand that our main character now in reality, she was in the moment in the past when something happened bad, and I really love the idea to connect this with fair, with clowns, with some exciting moments. So it was really interesting. I think that the story would really cool for summer, for beginning of the autumn. So if you haven't read it, just pay your attention. The next wonderful stories were by one author. It's Lorison White. It was my opening of the 2024 because I was thinking about her books a lot of years. I know about them, I know that a lot of people love them, and in 2024 I decided to start meeting with the author, and I was so excited after reading the first one that I started to read the second one. So now I continue to read her stories. So the first story is Beneath Devil's Bridge, and it's connected with a real thing which happened in Canada about the young girl which was found under the bridge, and the teacher was guilty in the story, and a lot of people just go into groups who try to support the teacher or who try to just say that he is the bad person. In the story, it was really interesting to see and know more deeply about the girl, about who was she, what did she like, what did she do, how she would connect with the teacher, what did she do after the lesson. So actually I love the story. Also the atmosphere was really interesting, so shivering, so cold. You really can feel a Canadian weather, because most of the time the weather is changeable, and you can be in one day in a rainy day, and in the second one in a snowy day. So the story was really cool. The second story of Fluorescent White, which was really cool, it's The Maid Diary, the story which connect also with the past secrets. I love story with the past secrets, and this one was so well paced. I was so deeply involved in the story for understanding what's going on, because it's connected with the Canada again, because Fluorescent White like to write about the Canada, and the readers who read all his stories know that we will have the weather, we will have the moments which connect with Canada, and in the story we will have a story about a sportsman. He's Olympic champion, and he is in the sport of winter. And I really love the idea to connect the thriller with the sport, because sometimes we have the description about the sport, about the moments which can happen, which could happen with the people who are in the sport, and also the secrets. The main idea was really cool about the lady who just a maid, and he works in different houses. She just cleaning, doing other things for people who live in the house, and she decided to write a diary. And it was really cool for understanding that something not wonderful in the story and not so wonderful in people's life who live in these houses. The next wonderful story was, of course, my favorite author, Ruth Ware, One Perfect Couple. I was waiting this book. I was waiting when I will have a vacation, sit and just start to read this one, because the story was really interesting about the island, about the reality show, about the disaster which happened with the people and how they survived on this island. So I was really enjoyed to read the story, and actually I didn't expect to see this theme on Ruth Ware's books, because I read all of them, and for me it was something unexpected, something unusual, something surprisingly to see in the story. So actually I love Ruth Ware, and I wait in 2025's her release. The next wonderful story was also my favorite author of detective. It's Simon Beckett, and I read The Restless Dead. It was really cool story about small town, about the secrets of the people, about some bad moments that happened in the past, and you can find the answers in the present. Some old killings, some old murders, some murders which can happen in reality, in real time. And our main character, David Hunter, this book's also from the series about the David Hunter. He is a great character. I love him. He's so clever, he's so brave, he's so strong. He is so really cool for reader for understanding what's going on in the story. He all the time is helpful to other characters, and actually it's so interesting to read the series about him. And also the great book for atmosphere, for shivering moments, for mystery things was Max Sack and the Witch Hunter. It was also the first story from the series, and I was so involving in the story. I read this for the one day, and I was so shockingly reading this one. I think my eyes were so big during this one, because the story talks us about the writer who wrote the story about the witch hunting in the past, and he knows that in his story most of the time it's detective stories, and there are a lot of killings which connect with the witches and with the magic, and it was so terrible for him for understanding that something bad happened and started, and his wife was the first victim like in his story. So it was really cool, but most of the time I like the atmosphere and the shivering moment, because you during the reading feel yourself like you in a horror movie. You can hear some whispers, you can hear some spells, you can feel not so comfortable in some moments which characters have in the story. So I really love the mood of the story. It was really a horror. It was really horror. So if you like detective which mix with the horrors, you need to pay attention to this one, because it was really cool. Also in the fantasy books, my favorite one was Samantha Shannon and the Priority of the Orange Tree. The thick book, but so wonderful and interesting. The interesting world, the interesting descriptions, cool characters, cool interesting moments from the characters' past moments of the living, about understanding what is the orange tree, what the magical things which we can have with this one. So it was really cool. Also, I took the story for reading because I love stories about dragons. And actually in this book we have a lot of moments when people feel nervous about the dragons, because they have a legend about some period of time will finish and the bad dragons will start to leave and everybody will feel not so cool and the disaster started. Also, I didn't put the story the 5 out of 5 because actually I didn't like the ending, because all the book I waited and waited at the moment of the meeting with the dragons and with the bad things which can happen with the people. But the last chapter when the characters met with the dragons was so small for me. The battle was so small, was so weak for me. So let's talk about best books of the year. In every genre, I decided to choose for one book, which was really wonderful, interesting, with a cool atmosphere, with a cool characters. I was so involved in the reading. I was so happy to read this one, and after the finishing, I was thinking about these books more deeply than other books. And in every genre, I decided to took the book which really was so wonderful, and of course I put them 5 out of 5 because I think that the best books, they must be best in everything. So in the modern literature, I decided to put the first place to the book The Broken Girl, Simmons and James. It was a really wonderful story. I was so involved in the plot. The characters were really cool. The past secret, which we can find the answer in the present. The wonderful location, the wonderful, interesting situations which happened with the main characters, and also Simmons and James likes to put some mystical moments, and there we have the mystical moments which connect with the location. I was so happy to read this one. In the fantasy genre, I have the best book of Terry Pratchett and the Hogfather, the fourth book of the series about the death, about the mort, and I want to tell you that the story was really cool, was really interesting, and I was crying at the end because it was so cute, it was so interesting, a lot of funny moments, a lot of jokes, a lot of things which I really love in Terry Pratchett books. The Hogfather tells us about the Christmas time when something happened with the Santa Claus, and the death decided to replace him and help people to continue to have the Christmas mood with giving them presents, with meeting them, and so on. So it was so funny to see the death in the costume of Santa Claus, the other things which he started to do for helping the people, because the death, he is so kind to people and he is really interesting in the real world, in the world of humans, and most of the time he makes some stupid things because actually he can't understand correctly what he need to do, and he just did something like in the books which he read or other moments. So it was really funny. The finishing line was just heartbroken. I was crying. I was almost depressed because I can understand what is a deep idea wanted to also give us about the faith, about the power of the faith, about the gods, about other moments, about the humans, and it was really wonderful. So if you haven't read Terry Pratchett stories, just try to read The Hogfather, and I'm sure that you will fall in love with this one because the characters, they're really wonderful. In sci-fi, the best book was For Ayn Rand. So the story which really was so well paced, and I read this during the one day because the story is not so big but so interesting, and I really enjoyed everything happened there. I love that the author decided to put different parts, and in different parts we have different mood, different atmosphere, different ideas of the characters, and also you can understand yourself, how you feel yourself in these parts. I actually love the idea about the strange person who just come to the old farm in the nearest future with some offering to the main characters to do something for having something. I really enjoyed the story. I read a lot of opinions about the stories that it's not so cool, not so interesting, and most of the time people wanted to have more for understanding deeply what's happened there. But actually for me, all was comfortable in the story, all was okay, all was interesting, and actually I was a bit shocking at the third part because I actually didn't expect anything about this story. It was my meeting with the author, and I think that I will read another his story because I was really happy to be in a world of four. So if you haven't read, just pay your attention to this story. It's really wonderful and interesting sci-fi novel with the mixing of drama. The best classical story in the 2024 was Victor Hugo and Les Miserables. It's the story which is also very, very thick and talk us about the France, about the revolution, about the people's life, about the bad things happen with the people. So actually actually you just can't describe all the story for understanding what's going on there, because you just need to read this to feel the plot, to feel the characters, to feel the moments which can happen with them, because most of the time situations which happened with them, it's not so good, not so wonderful, mostly depressed. And you have the line of the main character who in the beginning he is a bad person, he just thief and he just try to survive. And we can see how he will grow up in the story, about his life, about his ideas, about the moments, and about things which he wanted to give to other people, about the things which can he give um, for salvation of some moments, and how he will help the people. So I really love the moments, but most of the time Victor Hugo, he loves to put a lot of descriptions and his opinions about revolutions, about the France, about the colonization, about the other things. There are a lot of descriptions. So if you haven't read Victor Hugo, I want to tell you that he is the writer who like to write thick monumental stories about everything in some decade which he wanna take some years, and he just describing everything which can happen there. And the best book in detective and thrillers of 2024 was Strange Sally Diamond, Liz Nugent, the story which I read also in January, but I continue to think about the story, about some plot twist, about the characters, about their life, about how it could be if we put some situations from the book in real world, what will happen. And I love that in the story we have not only the story of Sally Diamond, we have the story of other people, and how the boy was growing up near with the bad person who made a really bad things with women, and how it's important to grow up the children in the atmosphere of kind and love. If not, we will have the same thing like in the book. I continued to think about this one during the year, all the year this book near with me. I just tried to refresh some moments, to remember something, to try to think, could it be happen in the story for changing some moments, some situations, or could it be possible to change something in the story, because the story was really gloomy and strange, and I was so upset about understanding about Sally Diamond, about her life, about her childhood, about who is she, what's happened with her. And of course it was really a gloomy story for understanding characteristic of these characters, their mental problems, their nervous system, and so on. So this is the best book of the year from detective and thrillers which I actually read, but I remind you that I read 52 detective and thrillers, and this was the best of the best. It's had the golden prize. So I told you about all my wonderful and not wonderful books which I read in 2024. I want to tell that, yeah, these books were really cool, the year was really wonderful, and I hope that the next year would be interesting and also cool in a reading sphere. I wanted to read more detectives and try to find more interesting situations in these books. So thanks for watching my videos. I wait you in comments. Please tell me one of the favorite book of 2024, and if you want, tell me the worst book of 2024 for my understanding what books you didn't like this year. Thanks for watching my videos. See you next one, and bye.